swine tract is just about to be boarded by a sinister spaceship from the Crab Nebula.
Kids in Space! This week's episode, Miss Piggy takes a trip to the local VD clinic to find out that she has crabs.
What?
Where is that voice coming from?
Hey everybody in YouTube land, welcome to my channel. I'm the One Wall, and this is a reply video to another video that I recently saw on YouTube from the channel My So-Called GenX Life. And I'm not expressing any negative thoughts towards the video. I thought it was a very well thought out video. A lot of points that really make sense about, when was America great? And in this video, I'm not expressing any negativity. I'm basically just had a lot of thoughts about it. It brought to my mind a lot of big picture ideas, primarily, about the 1980s and Gen X, us kids, and basically how we kind of might be responsible for helping America find its greatness again. And again, this is not a political video. Also, I'm just going to basically talk about a lot of points that, things that I experienced growing up, things that we all experienced growing up, and point out how we might better look at where we were, where we are, and perhaps how we can get back to a similar, more authentic time. And I really enjoyed the 80s, hands down, out of any other decade. Now let's talk about the word decade. It seems that we don't have decades now in the post-millennium world. I don't know why that is. Perhaps as we were rushing towards the millennium in the 20th century, that all throughout the 20th century, the idea of the word decade, when you break it down, decay, or as JFK used to say, decade, in this decade or another, decay. We were decaying. Going into the millennium, we were in decay, we were in decline in some ways. And I guess that was really evident in the 90s because everyone started to get manic depressive and sad, and everyone started to have feelings about a lot of stuff. And then after the millennium, whoa, oh, it's emotional. The 80s were quite a unique moment in America's history. The culture was radical. There was everything that was new that you could think of. Movies, music, TV, cable TV. There were, video games that were coming out on the scene. Skateboarding made a huge comeback in a new way. When you think about this, the Gen Xers, the latchkey children, the latchkey kids, like no other generation. We had typically both parents that worked, and so as I'm not going to get into it. You all know what latchkey kids are, and if you're a Gen Xer, I'm not going to rehash it for you. You know what that was like. So let's talk about the culture. The 80s A lot of people will say it was the greatest time in history. And then you have a lot of other people that say, maybe a little bit older than Gen X, maybe a little younger than Gen X, they either hate on the 80s or they go, well, you know, they're contrarian. The 80s weren't that great. Okay, all right. I'll take it. Because look, I mean, in the 80s, although we had this awesome culture, which might have just been a facade, let's really, I mean, let's call it for what it is. I mean, it was, you know, we're talking about a Potemkin village, you know, with a, you know, with an amazing soundstage, okay? A TV set. The 80s were great for a lot of reasons, you know, all the culture and all the toys, actually. We had great toys in the 80s. They were quality products and, for all intents and purposes, inexpensive compared to today. Just look at my last video. But it was not necessarily the best time in history. We had Reaganomics. You know, the economy was although it seemed like everyone was making money like, you know, Gord Gecko on Wall Street, you know, our parents were leveraged to the hilt on credit, you know, because they wanted to not only keep up with the Joneses, but they wanted to give us kids everything that we were clamoring for, that we saw on TV. We go, I want it, mommy, give it to me, daddy, buy this for me. And for most majority of, you know, families out there, even if they had, like, you know, several children instead of just one, like I was lucky, you know, they found a way to work for the money or get credit or find some sort of side gig. Back in the day, hustle. They would get their kids what their kids wanted, okay? Because I think, you know, parents not only wanted to look cool in front of their children, but they also wanted their kids to look cool in front of other kids going to school. Because let's face it, if, you know, your kid's going to go to school, you know, you don't necessarily want to deal with them getting made fun of because they don't have the new Nike high tops, or they don't have, you know, the new Sony Walkman, or they can't talk to their friends about, like, oh, I got this new game for my Nintendo. You know, they wanted their, you know, or I didn't see this new movie on cable TV because, oh, we only have a black and white. We don't believe in that. No, for the most part, parents wanted their kids to have it all, and they found a way. Let's get back to the culture, okay? You know, it wasn't that great. I mean, we did have a crack epidemic. We did have this unknown virus that turned out to be AIDS, which segmented a whole, you know, portion of society in the homosexual population. Can I say that? The gays, whatever you want to call them, all right? And, you know, you had a lot of disenfranchised minorities, let's call it for what it was, because of, you know, the Reaganomics of the time, the culture. So, okay, that being said, although everything was, let's say, under the surface, sub rosa, not the greatest, on the surface, everything looked great. You had to be happy because, you know, there were comedians like you've never seen before, and they were making you laugh, and they were talking about the culture, and everything was, you know, crazy. It was wild. I guess everyone was doing cocaine. Who knows? Maybe that had something to do with it. But our parents, they never saw a decade like the 80s before, ever. Okay? They grew up with black and white TVs for the majority of it until color came out, you know, I guess in the 60s. They didn't see toys like we had. They certainly never saw video games like we saw in the 80s with, you know, either like, you know, you go to the mall with the arcade. Oh, they didn't have malls, really, okay? I mean, the kids lived at the malls, and I think so did the parents, because I know my mom did a lot of purchasing at the mall before QVC came around on TV, before she was, like, dialing up. But they never saw a period like that in history, ever. So, as us Gen X kids, you know, maybe you had some older brothers, maybe you had a cousin, you know, niece, nephew, uncle, aunt, you know, that sort of like taught you about things. You know, if you were an only child like myself, you basically had to learn as you go. You know, you had no one to teach you. You had to like research everything on your own. You had to figure it out, and you had to do it. Otherwise, you know, you're going to get bullied in some way, or you're going to be left behind in another way. So you had to, you know, mentally prepare yourself and know what was going on. Whether you had everything, whether you didn't have everything, you had to figure out a way to mentally be prepared. So then we go from all of that in the 80s to the 90s. The 90s decaying into the millennium. And ever since the year 2000, Y2K, everything's sort of been going downhill. I'm not going to go into the politics of it all. I'm not going to go into the culture. I'm not going to go into everything that has come about since then. Whether you want to talk about how crappy the music is nowadays, or you know, how terrible video games are for you, especially now with AR, VR, and just the realistic nature of violence. You know, I'm not going to go into how terrible the movies and TV are, you know, because everything seems like a remake. You know, that's all been said before, and I'm not going to rehash it for anybody here. But perhaps see, I'm a big picture guy, and I'm thinking perhaps there's a reason for why the 80s were so great and why everything sucks now. The sort of ebb and flow of society, culture in decline. Perhaps there's a reason. Have you ever played a game by yourself, whether it's solitaire, whether it's on the computer, you know, against the computer, you know, or whether you just played Uno by yourself, where you just, you know, deal out 4 different hands and you know, you play each hand by yourself, you know, you're bored, you got no one else to play with, and you sort of try and, you know, win each hand against yourself. I mean, you know what every hand has, but, you know, you're sort of, oh, well, maybe I can, you know, I'm going to get on this, I'm going to trick this, you know, and you know, you trick each hand, you know, you're playing against yourself. Well, big picture guy me says, let's take a look at the powers that be, the powers that should not be, okay? I like that. The people behind the scenes, you know, the people under the chessboard, above the chessboard, behind the chessboard, behind the players, behind the scenes, you know, the wizard behind the drapes playing the organ. And perhaps there's a reason, you know, now I'll say this, maybe it's half and half. Maybe everything happened half by chance, by luck, and maybe everything happened half on purpose, was supposed to happen that way. Maybe the 80s were so good and bad on purpose. Maybe there's a reason why everything's been turned into the world that we see today. Perhaps there's a reason why this has occurred. Perhaps when you think of, like I said, the ebb and flow of society, everything goes up, everything goes down. Everything goes up, everything goes down. You know, it's a wave, it's a frequency. It goes up and down, comes in and out, like at the beach. Perhaps there's a reason for all this. And perhaps now here's, stay with me, bear with me, here's my big picture moment, okay? Perhaps there's a reason why the 80s were so good and bad, and perhaps there's a reason why now sucks. Like, just flat out sucks. I mean, you might get happy about a few things, okay? There might be, you know, there's brilliant technology. I mean, technology is shooting through the roof like we've never seen before. And, you know, everyone says we're going to go to Mars or everything, and now electric cars and, you know, whatever. You name it, okay? Perhaps there's a reason. What could that be? Perhaps the 80s were the way they were because for the smallest generation in terms of numbers and family size, the Gen Xers, perhaps the burden is on us. Perhaps we were meant to remember everything. Perhaps we're the keepers of the memory. I know there are younger generations, the Ys, the Zs, the millennials, the alphas now, and soon the betas coming up. Perhaps we're the ones that are supposed to be responsible to show everyone else how great things can be, and also how terrible things can be also. You know, how great a culture can be, how great movie, music, toys, games, everything. Perhaps we're there to highlight how great that, and also how bad everything can be, how you can get addicted to things, how you can, you know, waste your money on certain things, waste your time, waste your energy. Perhaps we're meant to, as a generation, to, whether it's subtly or not so subtly in your face, remind you that, hey, this is how it was. It doesn't have to be the way it is now. We don't have to be all fighting against each other. We can actually enjoy America. We can actually do what we want to do. We can actually say what we want to say. Because here's the thing about kids in the 80s, okay? It was a kids' generation. It was all about the kids, okay? Look at some of the movies that I'm showing over here on my screen, okay? There's, you know, War Games. There's Cloak and Dagger. There's Kid Code. There's Goonies. There's Firestarter. There's The Toy. What do all these movies have in common? Kids doing whatever the hell they want to win, to get what they want, to get what they need, to get over on the bullies, the adults, to win at the adults' game, to play the adults' game and beat the adults at their own game, okay? Perhaps that's central to the message of this video, is that we as kids back in the day, we understood this. When, you know, perhaps we got no given to us a lot of times, and we were just a bunch of yes kids, you know. You know, we said, and when we said no, we meant like, no, you're not going to stop me. Like, yes, I'm going to get everything that I want, and I'm going to beat you. Perhaps that's the reason why everything was the way it was. And perhaps we're on the verge of remembering that as a society, as a culture again, because honestly, I haven't seen such a resurgence in Gen X up till now. I mean, it seems like maybe because of what happened a few years ago, just like everyone's, you know, coming back to religion, perhaps, you know, us Xers are remembering, hey, wait a second, this isn't the way it's supposed to be, okay? We're supposed to have something good, and we want it, and we're not going to stop until we get it. Perhaps that's what we need to remember. Not necessarily all the, you know, like I said, surface level things. Perhaps we're supposed to remember the deeper meaning of what we witnessed, what we experienced, what we went through, what we were so fortunate or unfortunate to have occur to us. Perhaps this is why most Gen Xers are starting to come out of the woodwork, come out of the closet, and wake. Maybe we're going to wake everyone up, and maybe this video might remind you all. Maybe, you know, just like it's one little step, you know, closer to turning the tide. I don't know if that means anything, but it's something to think about. Like I said, I don't want to really get into politics. I don't want to get into religion. I want to get into what everyone can enjoy. What do we get along on all together as a society, as a culture? We all want the best for ourselves, our family, our children. We want to have nice neighbors. We want to have a striving economy. We want to have a good nation. We want to have good things. And I don't think that we need to do what we've been doing recently at the expense of that happiness, that joy, that, I guess, that success, that winning spirit. I think that if we remember that we have, you know, this flame inside of us, this burning desire, this power, you know, we have a strong mental attitude that we can, let's see, focus that energy in the right ways, in the right areas, and hopefully, you know, make people understand those that are, let's just say, not necessarily getting it, to come around and to think and to know that it can be good again, you can do something about it, and you can change things. That's really what young people today perhaps need to understand, is that you don't have to take what you're given, that you're force-fed. You can do something about it. You can either throw that ish sandwich back in their face, or you can throw it on the ground and not eat it at all and, you know, say, forget it. And you can move on. And you can do what you want to do. You say, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want to do. Perhaps that's a really good message to hold on to in the coming years, in the coming decades. Never know. Stranger things have happened. So, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. And like I said at the beginning, please like, share, subscribe if you are so inclined, feel that you want to. Share this video with other people if this message rang true for you. And for My So-Called GenX Life, thank you for making such an awesome video. I wanted to reply to it because, like I said, it brought up a lot of things in my mind. And as I say, I'm a big picture guy, and so I think what's not necessarily noticeable to a lot of people is, you know, they focus on, you know, the politics, or, you know, the warring factions, you know, left versus right, you know, the downtrodden versus, you know, the elites. I kind of don't really even like think in those terms anymore. I'm pretty much middle of the road. And really all I want to do is keep skating and be happy. I mean, really, if I have to say anything about myself, it's everything I need to know I learned by watching 80s cartoons. By the way, this is an 80stees.com t-shirt. This isn't a promo. It is a promo. It's not a paid-for promo, but go to 80stees.com. They got a lot of great shirts, a lot of cool designs, a lot of stuff that you might recall from your childhood. This is one of them. I love it. It's my new best site to like to go to. So anyway, in conclusion, I'd just like to remind everybody, because I don't think I said it before, please go to My So-Called GenX Life and subscribe to that channel and watch this woman, Natalie. She does excellent videos about a more authentic time in America's history, and she also posts a lot of fun and exciting memes about music, movies, events, people, things that occurred in the 1980s. And it's fun, and you should go there and interact. It's a really wonderful channel. So there you have it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed everything. I'm the One Wall. Peace. I'm out.
Stay tuned for next week's exciting episode to find out exactly who gave Miss Piggy the crabs in this week's episode.
Huh? Who is that?